You know, I didn't always believe these things. At one point in my life, I thought aging was just something that happens to you, like rain, like winter. You don't question it, you just accept it. People around me, they got tired, slower, heavier, quieter. And then one day they started depending on pills. And I thought, that's just how it goes. Turns out I was wrong. Back in the mid-70s, there was this young doctor, barely seasoned, still carrying that sharp confidence you only have before life humbles you. His name was Makoto Suzuki. He went to Okinawa, not for adventure, not for curiosity. He went because he expected work. He expected sick people, old hearts, failing bodies, charts to fill, prescriptions to write. That's what medicine trains you for. But when he got there, long pause, something felt off. Too quiet, too normal. He opened his bag, ready to work, and then slowly realized there was nothing to do. The old people weren't sick, not hiding it, not managing it, just not sick. Men in their 80s walking without effort like their joints hadn't heard of pain yet. Women in their 90s still moving around their homes like time forgot to slow them down. Then there were the ones that crossed 100. Not lying in beds, not counting their last days. They were living still. No heavy medication, no long medical history, no visible breakdown. And that doesn't happen by accident. One person like that, you call it luck. A whole community like that, you call it a mystery. And that mystery got under his skin. He didn't leave. Most people would have. They'd say nothing to study here. But he stayed. Years passed, then decades. 40 years of quietly watching, collecting, comparing, trying to understand something the rest of the world was clearly missing. And what he found, it wasn't exciting. No miracle pill, no hidden gene, no rare environmental trick. It was something almost too plain, too ordinary, the kind of thing people overlook because it doesn't feel powerful enough. It was their daily food, not occasionally, not sometimes healthy. Every single day, same patterns, same rhythm, same habits, repeated so many times they became invisible. Now listen, because this part matters. They weren't trying to live longer. That wasn't their goal. They weren't chasing longevity. They weren't reading labels, counting macros, switching diets every year. They were just eating in a way that didn't slowly damage them. And that's where most of us go wrong. We don't notice damage when it's small. We notice it when it's already built, when the doctor gives it a name, when it needs a pill. Out there, they never let it reach that stage, because without knowing it, they were controlling 3 silent forces inside the body. Inflammation, the slow burn. Oxidative stress, the quiet rust. Blood sugar swings, the constant up and down. These 3 things, they age you faster than time itself. And in the West, we try to fight them later with medication. They handled them early with food. Not complicated food, not expensive food, just consistent food. And there was one more thing, something so simple, researchers almost dismissed it. Not a vegetable, not a fruit, not something you can buy, but it showed up in every single person who lived that long, every one of them. I'll come back to that, soft, because if I say it now, you might brush it off,
like most people do. Let's start where most people misunderstand everything. When people hear about Okinawa, they say the same things. It's their genetics. It's the environment. They just didn't eat junk. Sounds logical. Feels safe.
But it's wrong, because when Okinawans moved away, places like Brazil, and started eating like everyone else, that advantage, gone. Not slowly, not after a century, within 2 generations. And when fast food entered Okinawa after the war, their ranking dropped fast, from one of the healthiest populations to average. That's not genetics, that's behavior. And behavior, it changes everything. See, people think they ate healthy, but that word, it's too vague. They didn't eat healthy. They ate in a way that prevented damage. That's a completely different thing, because most of what we eat today doesn't hurt immediately. It hurts slowly, quietly, daily, and we call that normal, until it isn't. And by then, it's already inside you. Now let me tell you about a man. I still remember reading about him. His name was Seiju Taguchi. He lived in a small village, nothing fancy, no modern luxury. When they last checked on him, he was 105, still walking, still doing small work, still eating the same way he always had. And when they looked at his body, the inside didn't match the number. His blood vessels looked decades younger, not perfect, but not worn out, not broken down. And his main food wasn't some rare superfood you've never heard of. It was a sweet potato, but not the kind most people eat. This one was deep purple, darker, richer. For years, it wasn't just part of their diet, it was most of it. Almost 70% of what they ate came from that one thing. Now think about that for a second. Same food every day for decades. And instead of causing damage, it kept things stable. That's the part most people can't wrap their head around, because we're used to variety, more options, more flavors, more everything. But they trusted something else, consistency. And this simple food, it did something powerful. It didn't spike the body. It didn't shock the system. It fed without disturbing. You eat white bread, sugary cereal, a bagel in the morning, your blood sugar shoots up and crashes. You feel it, that dip, that tiredness around mid-morning, like your body just gave up for a bit. That's not random. That's your system reacting. Now imagine that happening every single day for years. That's how damage builds. Quiet, repetitive, unnoticed. The Okinawan sweet potato didn't do that. It rose slowly, stayed level, no spike, no crash, just steady energy. And when your body stays steady, it doesn't break down the same way. Later studies even showed people consuming it regularly had lower inflammation markers. Not slightly lower, clearly lower. But here's where most people mess up. They hear this and think, all right, I'll just add a sweet potato. No, that's not how it works. You don't add it. You replace. That's the uncomfortable part, because it means letting go of something you've been doing for years. Toast, cereal, processed breakfast. You remove that, and only then this starts to matter. Otherwise, it's just another extra thing sitting on top of the same problem. And that's the first layer, but it's not enough on its own. There's something else, something bitter, something most people won't like at first. And ironically, that's exactly why it works. I'll tell you about that in a moment, because that's where things start getting real. You ever notice this? How the things that are actually good for you don't feel good at first? Sweet things, soft things, easy things, they pull you in right away. But the things that fix something deeper, they usually come with a little resistance. That's how it was with the second piece of this story. See, researchers kept asking themselves something that didn't add up.
These people in Okinawa, they weren't eating low carb, not even close. Their meals were full of carbohydrates, sweet potatoes, rice, legumes, every single day. And yet, their blood sugar stayed stable, even in their 80s, 90s. No chaos, no spikes, no crashes. Now think about that, because where we live, that sounds impossible. We've been told the opposite our whole lives. Cut carbs, reduce sugar, control your intake. That's the advice. And sure, it works for some people, for a while, but Okinawa showed something different. They didn't remove carbohydrates. They balanced them with something very specific, something most people have never really used the right way. A vegetable, bitter melon. Yeah, I know. Even the name doesn't sound inviting. And the taste, it hits you the first time like, why would anyone eat this? It's sharp.
Bitter. Almost aggressive. But that bitterness, that's where the power sits. This plant, it carries compounds that behave in the body in a way that's honestly surprising. It helps your cells take in sugar more efficiently, almost like what certain medications try to do, without the prescription, without the side effects. There were studies comparing it to common diabetes drugs, and the results weren't small. They were comparable. Let that sink in for a second. A vegetable doing something similar to a pharmaceutical. And yet, most people ignore it because it doesn't taste good. Funny how that works. Now here's the part where most people mess it up, and I've seen this happen over and over again. They hear about bitter melon, and what do? They go online, buy capsules, extracts, powders, throw it into their morning routine next to 10 other supplements, and they think, that's it, I've got it covered. Oh, that's not it. That's where the whole thing breaks. Because the people in Okinawa, they didn't isolate it. They didn't turn it into a pill. They cooked it. They ate it as food, with tofu, with eggs, sometimes with a bit of pork, mixed together, chewed slowly, digested as a whole meal. And that changes everything. The fiber, the water, the texture, the way your gut processes it. All of that matters. When you extract it, you lose the context. And without context, the effect weakens. That's something modern life doesn't teach you. We've been trained to isolate, simplify, package. But the body, it doesn't work like that. It understands food, not fragments. There's even a deeper mechanism behind this. Something I'll explain later about why isolated compounds don't behave the same way.
Most people are already stuck in that trap without realizing it. They're taking the active ingredient but missing the system around it. And then they wonder why nothing really changes. Now, let me tell you how this actually looked in real life. Not as a protocol, not as a system, just a normal meal. They would take bitter melon, slice it open, remove the seeds, cut it thin, sometimes rub it with a little salt just to calm down that sharp bitterness. Then toss it into a pan with tofu, egg, a bit of seasoning, cook it together. That's it. 15 minutes. No complexity, no measuring, just food. And they didn't eat it every single day. That's another mistake people make. They think more is better. No. It showed up a few times a week. Regular, but not obsessive. That balance matters more than people think. And here's where it connects back to the first thing, that sweet potato. One keeps your energy steady. The other helps your body handle that energy properly. Together, they do something subtle but powerful. They smooth out the curve. You don't spike, you don't crash, you just stay level. Now let me ask you something. Think about the last time you ate, and 2 hours later you were hungry again. Not real hunger, that restless kind, the craving, the urge to grab something quick. You've felt that before, hundreds of times, maybe thousands. That's not just being hungry. That's your blood sugar dropping after going up too fast. It's a cycle.
And most people are stuck in it every single day without even noticing. Now imagine, soft pause, did that just stops? Not instantly, not overnight, but gradually. By week 3, week 4, you start noticing something strange. You're not chasing food the same way. Your energy doesn't dip the same way. At afternoon crash, it softens. Not gone, but different, more stable. And your mind feels clearer, not sharper like caffeine, just less fog. That's the body adjusting, not dramatically, honestly, quietly. And those quiet changes, they matter more than big promises. 'Cause big promises, they fade. But small, consistent shifts, they stay. Now, we've talked about two things, the steady fuel and the regulator. But there's still something missing, something that ties all of this together. And it's not what you eat, it's when you stop. This part, most people ignore, 'cause it sounds too simple, too obvious. Sometimes, light breath, the simplest thing is the one we've forgotten the most. I'll tell you about that next. And when you hear it, don't dismiss it too quickly, 'cause this was the one thing every single person had in common. You know, long pause, out of everything they found, all the foods, all the patterns, all the little details, this was the one thing that almost slipped through their hands, not 'cause it was hidden, but because it looked too simple, too ordinary, like something that couldn't possibly matter that much. And maybe that's why people still ignore it today. When researchers started visiting the homes of these old men and women, the ones who had lived the longest, they expected to find something unusual, a rare ingredient, a secret dish, some forgotten tradition. But instead, they noticed something else, something quiet, something you wouldn't even write down unless you were paying very close attention. It wasn't about what they were eating. It was about when they stopped. There's a phrase they used, older than any modern diet, passed down for thousands of years. Hara, hachi, eat until you're about 80% full. Not stuffed, not completely satisfied, just enough. And then you stop. It sounds almost disappointing, right? No complexity, no formula, just stop early. That's it. That was the thing. Every single one of them did, not some of them, all of them. And they didn't treat it like a health strategy. They didn't even talk about it like that. It was just how you ate. That's what makes it different. See, we've been taught something else. We've been taught to finish the plate, to eat until we feel full, to chase that last bite, that last feeling of satisfaction. And somewhere along the way, we stopped noticing the difference between not hungry and completely full. They're not the same, not even close, but most adults haven't felt that difference in years. Now, here's where it gets deeper. This wasn't just about eating less. It wasn't about restriction. It created something inside the body over time without them even trying. A small, consistent gap between what they needed and what they ate. Not a big gap, not starving, just slightly less. And that small gap, held over years, decades, it triggered something powerful, a kind of internal response where the body shifts into repair mode, cleaning, fixing, maintaining, instead of constantly processing excess. There's even a gene tied to this, FOXO3. You don't need to remember the name, just understand what it does. When this pathway gets activated, the body reduces inflammation, repairs damaged cells better, protects the structure of your DNA. In simple terms, it slows down how fast you wear out. And here's the part most people miss. This isn't something you either have or don't have. It's influenced by how you live, especially how you eat. The foods they used, turmeric, sea vegetables, tofu, and this habit, stopping before full. Together, they created the conditions for that system to stay active. Not once, not occasionally, every day. Now compare that to how most people live. We eat fast, we eat distracted, we eat until we feel heavy, and then we wonder why we feel slow, foggy, tired. We try to fix it later with supplements, capsules, extracts, little bottles promising big changes. But something gets lost there, because when you isolate something, you strip away the context. Turmeric in a capsule is not the same as turmeric cooked with food, with fat, with pepper, slowly absorbed the way it's meant to be. The same goes for everything. We've turned food into chemistry, but the body still understands it as experience, as process, as rhythm. That's what Okinawa never lost.
They didn't separate things. They kept everything connected. Their food, their habits, their timing, their restraint, all of it working together. Not perfectly, but consistently. And consistency, that's what builds a life. Not intensity, not short bursts, just repetition. Now, if you put all of this together, it doesn't look like a system. It looks almost too ordinary. Morning, something steady, like a simple sweet potato. A few times a week, something bitter, something grounding, like that melon dish. Every meal, stopping just before you go too far. Adding small things, turmeric, sea vegetables, not as medicine, but as part of life. Nothing extreme, nothing complicated. No tracking, no obsession, just direction. And over time, and I mean over time, that direction changes you. Not overnight, not in a week, but slowly, quietly, the way real change always happens. First, your energy feels different. Not high, not low, just even. Then your appetite changes. You start noticing when you're actually satisfied, not stuffed, satisfied. That's a strange feeling when you haven't felt it in years. Then the small things start shifting. Less stiffness, clearer thinking, better mornings. Not dramatic, but real. And after a while, it stops feeling like effort. It just becomes how you live. That's the part nobody talks about. Habits, when they settle, don't feel like discipline anymore. They feel like identity. And maybe that's what those people had. Not a secret, not a trick. Just a way of living that didn't slowly break them down. I remember reading about this old woman, over 100 years old, early morning, out in her garden, bending down, standing back up, no struggle, no hesitation, no pills sitting on a table nearby, just movement, just life. And when you see something like that, you feel two things at the same time: respect and distance, like that's not for me, like it belongs to someone else, somewhere else, some other kind of life, but it doesn't. That's the uncomfortable part. Because what those researchers found over 40 years was this wasn't fate, it wasn't luck, it wasn't something you're born with. Because the moment people left that lifestyle, it disappeared, which means it can be lost. And if it can be lost, it can be built again. That's the part I wish someone told me earlier. We spend our lives counting things, calories, carbs, steps. We restrict, we avoid, we chase shortcuts because it feels easier. But maybe the answer was never in doing more. Maybe it was in doing less. Less chaos, less excess, less pushing past the point where your body quietly says, "That's enough," and actually listening for once. So if you take anything from this, don't try to change everything. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just tomorrow morning, do one small thing differently. Replace, not add. Pay attention, not rush. Stop a little earlier than you usually would, and then just notice. That's where it starts. Not in a big decision, but in a small shift repeated enough times that it becomes who you are. The truth is, those people never thought they were doing anything special. They just lived in a way that didn't slowly destroy them. And maybe that's the quiet confession here. We've made life complicated when it was never supposed to be. You already know what to do. You just haven't been doing it. And now you can.